Hello everyone and welcome to episode 32 of the Game Dev Tutorials. Today we're going to be doing like level selection stuff. You could call it, switching between multiple levels, yada yada yada. But this is another request. I don't think it was from Patreon. I think it was just a request from comments, and I'm trying to get caught up on those. So what we're doing today is we are going to be adding a menu. So right now we have, let's say, that was really bad. We have the main menu, and then that goes into world. I'll use circles for menus and squares for the actual game. You can do whatever you want right now. But so we click play, it goes straight to world. What we want for today, I'm not saying this is what you want to make your game do always, but what you want is main menu to the level select, and then from there we load world with an ID. Okay? So, this is what we're trying to do today, is add this bit here. And now world will load in the level that you specify. And now that I think about it, in here I actually need to add something. So let's jump in real fast. Oops. That's not what I wanted. There we go. We need to add the map file and a new level. Ha ha ha. Okay. So I'm not creating a new level from scratch. All I'm going to do is copy level 1, call it level 2, and then change level 1 to only have 2 spawn points instead of 3. That'll give us enough to test. My goal with this is not creating the second level of the game. My goal of this is to be able to have a testable program when I'm done. As always, kind of the smallest, simplest version that I can do while still making it meaningful and testable. Okay, so after we add the map file, which is this, just a quick map, right? And we're going to add a level there and like a level here, somewhere in there, okay? Then we are going to create the map class, which essentially is a menu. As I mentioned here, it's a menu. It's usually a more visually pleasing menu for selecting levels. It could even be a crazy 3D menu like you see in like a Fable or something. You can do a lot of things to spruce up your menus. Menus don't have to look like a standard screen with buttons on it or whatever. Or like our main menu does, right? That's just a screen with buttons on it. So, but this is going to be a screen with buttons on it. But it's a screen with buttons on it that does something that feels like you're in the game. So you want to make it feel like it's a part of the game. Which is why we have the map, right? So it feels like it's part of the game. Yeah, alright. So, the next thing we're going to do is edit gameplay. And to switch between... Hold on. Sorry, got a little scratch in my throat. To switch between world and world map classes. So basically when we click a level in world map, then we will go to world with the correct ID. We'll link everything up, and then we'll test it. That is what we're going to be doing today. So, yeah. Alright, so jumping right in. We are going to be... Well, let's add that file first. Let's add our... okay. Add our X and B for the world map, which we'll put in UI backgrounds. Sweet. It's already open. And we will content copy if newer. We will go and add our second level. Awesome. Rename it level 2. Let that go. And then in level 1, as I just mentioned before, well, all we're going to do is we're going to come in here and take this last spawn point out. Okay? So now the level is testably different. That's all we care about for right now. You can make whatever you want for your second level. What I want is a testable difference. So in this case, we will have the left and middle spawn points for the first level, and we have the left, middle, and right spawn points for level 2. Okay, those are good. Now let's jump over here, and then wherever world is where we want to add our new class. So add new, and we'll say world map. Okay, and then we always want our includes. Okay, and then fix our namespaces, or just remove the specified part. Fix is the wrong word there. Okay, so public class world map. Now world map has just a couple things in it. At least for this, for the purposes of this tutorial, you can add, animated things around so that things are moving and it's pretty and not static and all that kind of stuff. But again, that's outside the scope of this tutorial. We can add that kind of stuff later, and we've already gone over animations and stuff, so you can use the knowledge you have in order to pretty up this map. But what we do need is public basic 2D BKG. So we have our background, and then we need a public list of buttons, and then I call them levels. Okay, so that's all this is. This is that simple. In fact, if you look at main menu, when you look at the structure, where's my main menu? There it is. When you look at the structure, we're talking really similar. This one has some oh, I do need a pass object. But these are extraordinarily similar structures, and that should show you this really is a menu, despite whether it looks like one to you or not. So we do need a pass object. Call it change game state. Yeah, let's just go with that. Change game state. Okay, and then public world map. What do we need to pass into world map? Just the fact that we can change the state. So pass object change game state. Change change game state equals the capital version. Cool. Now we've saved the game state changing delegate, which is awesome. We need to create our background. So here we're going to have BKG equals new basic 2D. We have our path. We'll leave that be for right now. We have new vector 2. We have globals, screen width over 2, because this is the position. Globals dot screen height over 2. So now we're positioning in the middle. That's what we want. And then a new vector. We're going to copy paste. We don't need to type all that out, because this is the same thing but without the divided by 2's. Cool. Alright, so we placed it in the middle. Our file is at 2D UI backgrounds world map. Let's type that out. 2D UI backgrounds world map. Okay, we now have our background. We're going to have a load data, because I just don't like doing it in the constructor. It just feels wrong, and it's going to complain that it doesn't exist. I know. So public virtual void load data. It's not passing anything in because we're loading the data that already exists in a file, which we haven't created yet. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But I'm just trying to get our structure going. So here, so public virtual void update. Update only has to update our buttons. So The way to update buttons is through a loop, so update any list is through a loop. I equals 0, I less than levels dot count, I plus plus, and then in here we have levels I dot update, and then I don't think we have any position change at this point, so we'll just do vector2 dot 0. Okay, great. That's our update. We know that our draw is the exact same thing, other than it says draw here. Nope. Okay. So we've got that. And then inside our draw, we also need to draw our background. So we want to draw that first, so that it's behind everything. And again, vector2.0. Okay. If you create an offset within this map, because you want to be able to scroll around your menu, your map, then you would then input those offsets into these locations. That is not the case for what we're doing today, but that's how you would edit that. And then the last thing we want to do here, for now, before creating the next file, is to say public virtual void, let's call it level clicked. And you can say, oh, you don't need this because you have this. Yeah, I know. But what if we wanted to do something different when a level is clicked instead of just straight jumping into the next game? Then you're going to want this. So let's set it up right so that we don't have to backtrack and try to remember what we did. We just can look, find this, which we're going to pass into all our buttons, and then realize that this is a function we can edit to do more than just load a file. Then you could also say, well, that's outside the scope. This is not minimum. Yeah, but it's kind of my minimum for menu. This is, I'm not making a menu with less than this in it almost ever. So, yeah, okay. So whatever comes in from our level will come in here. It will pass to gameplay in a minute here. We'll get to that. And then we also have to still do our load, which we can't do yet. This is our start for world map. Now in gameplay, boy, where did I put this thing? There it is. All right. In gameplay, we are going to have another play state. So the order of your play states doesn't really matter. If I were redoing this whole thing, I would have world map be 0 and world be 1, but I'm not going to do that right now. Let's do this. I'm sorry. World map, and then world map equals new, oops. World map equals new world map, and then that one's going to want a change state, so we'll come in here and we'll say public virtual void change play state. Okay. And then that one's going to need the object info thing. Cool. We'll deal with this in a minute, but right now I'm just trying to get it passed in so that we're not leaving broken code behind. Here, so now here, see how that works? So we're just updating the different thing based on the play state. No big deal. Very simple little bit there. Same thing goes here. This is just draw. Super simple stuff. Okay, so changing the play state is something that we can do a quick talk about. First things first, when we're changing the play state, is that we always want, right now, the play state to go to 0. Why? Because that loads our world. We're not worried about being able to go back and forth at this point. Right now, we're just trying to load in. In fact, to test this, I'm going to have to load this program twice. But, again, minimum possible. This video is already going to go over 20 plus minutes. So I don't want to get too complicated. And we can deal with exiting a game later. That can be a whole other video. Okay, so world. We're creating world here. New world, right? And then we have up here what we... no, right here. what we've done in the past. So let's just paste that. But what this doesn't do, if we go into world, this allows for us to switch the level ID. See, there's our level ID. We already created this space because we knew eventually we were going to do this. So we need to get that. So int level ID. No big deal. And then we're going to want to save that level ID. So public int level ID. Done. And then here, level ID equals level ID. And you'll see why we need to save this in a minute, or why we want to save it. Need, maybe not the strongest, not the right word, but all right. So this automatically comes in here, and comes in and grabs the level 1 or 2 or whatever. See, they're right there. So we already set that up. We set that up knowing, I knew that we would do this eventually, and this is how you do it, or at least one way to do it. You could be passing in, this entire string here instead of just the level. Each of your things could be uniquely named, as opposed to numerically named if you wanted to. In this case, they're numerically named. I planned on it doing this way. I'm going to keep it this way for now. So there we go. And now, of course, we are breaking our game because we've added this. So if we go to our errors, we are going to be complained at. And so this is where we have to make a small change, or addition for that matter. Convert to int 32. I mean, unless you plan on your level IDs getting massive, really int 16 should be plenty enough, but 32, just because that way we don't have to think. And then we have our info variable, which came in. This is going to be our ID. And then always our globals.culture, because if you don't do that and you start passing fractions, European and American number systems are different. And I'm not saying all European numbers, I don't know every single one of them, so bear with me here. But by setting this to a specific set of where the commas go and where the decimals go, you will not have the broken code that you otherwise would have if, let's say, I am using my American standard, which is, decimal separates the partial piece from the whole numbers, whereas in like Germany it's vice versa. Anyway, the game will run the way I expect it to, and even if I want to then display it in their system, I at least am storing my numbers in my system, and that way the game doesn't get confused between the two. Very important. I know I've talked about that before. I don't know why I felt like I needed to do it again, but there's that. Okay, so we're passing that in. Now, what do we do here? Uh-oh. Our reset world. We don't know what our level is. Oh, but we do. We do because we saved it in world. So if you're not going to have a reset function, maybe you don't have to do this. Maybe there's another reason to do it, which there is. But let's say for this, in this case, we're going to reset the world. We're going to say int level ID equals 1. You could say 0, but we don't have a level 0. So let's say something breaks. It's horrible. It loads level 1. At least it doesn't break your game. Okay, we're cool with that. At least I am. It should never do that. But provided that world does not equal null, again, it should never be null because we're resetting the world, which should already exist. But let it slide for a second. Then level ID equals world dot level ID. Okay, and then we just pass in this. Cool. Link that up. We're in a good spot. We have made our switch in gameplay accommodate everything for going between world and world map that we need currently. At least I think we have. We'll find out. Alright, so what else do we need to do? Well, I'm sure you remember we have a blank load data file. Or function. And that's where the next big step comes from. So just copy one of these, paste it here, call it levels instead of level. And then let's go in here. Let's remove everything except for the root. All right. So this file needs to do a couple of things. It needs to account for all the different levels on a specific map. In this case, we only have one map, but you could make it so that they have a variable that deals with which map they're on. And we also need to state where on the map. So let's go back to that real fast. Where on the map you want them done. So if you look over here, when I point here, you need to look here. But you'll see that that's like 250, 250. That's what we'll use. And then if we want to be here, we'll be like 550, 400. Okay? So 250, 250, 550, 400. That's what we're dealing with. We'll get to that in just a second. So let me pull up my prompt, make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. So level, because these are levels, ID equals 1, close. Open that up. We have, oh, by the way, this ID is what is going to pass through here and get in. So you need to make sure that those match, right? And then we're going to have the name of the level. You don't have to put this here, but I only want to pull in the data off this file for efficiency reasons, so I'm going to put it here. You could just have that in here. You could have a name, which we don't even have, and then you could pull off both. In this case, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to put it here. So level 1 name, and here we're going to store the file that we're loading. So level 1. I'm not going to use this now. I'm just trying to show you good practices here. We are going to use this though. And then this is X and Y. Okay, so let me explain. This is the name of the level. And we wanted to probably display this either in a tooltip or on the level button. That's not recommended, but let's just say for a second that that's an option. Or maybe you write it below it or something. You want to display that somewhere, most likely. So that's good. This is the actual file's name. This could be the entire extension if you want it to be. This right now is just level's name. So remember I mentioned earlier, if you didn't want to just do the sequential thing and use unique file names for each one, you can do it right there. So this would be this. In this case, we're not going to do that, but I wanted to mention it, so I put it into this XML file. If you don't want these two things in here, we actually are not using them on this specific tutorial, but I did want to talk about them. Okay, so let's put in our first level. I mentioned it would be 250, 250. I don't actually remember what the other one was. I think it was like 500, 400, but we'll deal with that in a second. Grab here. Good. And then we will do level 2 name, level 2. Remember, these are just worthless at this point for me, so they're literally just changing that out. But again, I wanted you guys to see it. So 500, and then it was like 400, something like that. They may end up in a weird spot, but that's that. Let's save that. This file we will now load here. We do something similar in world, so let's get the stuff from world. We definitely need to do a query on it, so we'll grab a query, we'll go in here, we'll paste it, and then this is our levels, level list, and we're just grabbing all of the levels, so we want level. XML. Oh, we didn't pull in the file. Let's do that. We do that up here. And it here. Cool. We are doing it at one level lower. And it's just levels, right? It's hard-coded. We don't need it to be dynamic because the levels is the levels. right? That's all levels will go in this file. Good. Now we have that to go to there. We're good. We're in there. So now we need to do a loop. Int I equals 0, I less than level list dot count I plus plus. Okay. Inside here, we are going to have the loading of our actual levels. So we want levels dot add, and then we're adding a button. So new, that's in 2D. There's our file, which we'll get to in a second, and then we need our position, which we'll do in a second because we're going to copy paste that, and then our dimensions. I don't know, let's say new vector 2. I'm good with 40/40, I think. That'll be big enough to at least see. A font path, we'll get that in a second. The text for the string we'll get in a second. I know, lots of getting to things in a second. This is level clicked. That is the function we want to call when we click something, and then we will get to the piece of information when we get in a second. So, first off, I know this one. Let's do 2D misc solid. Nice and easy. The next thing we want to do is we want to figure out what we are passing in, and we talked about that, and that was, whoops, that was this, which is attribute ID value. So we have here, we have level list I dot attribute ID value. Oh, sorry, dot value. There we go. Because these are only 40/40, I'm going to use that as the name on it. Do you need something to be the name on it? No, you don't. You could leave it blank if you felt like it. But in this case, I'm going to do it. The next thing I need to know is the file font that I'm going to be using. And I don't know if that's seen in here anywhere. Where do I have a button? A button on main menu. There we go. Alright. That's our font. And then now we have to get the position from this, which we've done many times, right? We use that same structure. It's in world. And we come down here and we say, oh, it's right here. This is getting and converting a vector 2 position from an XML file. So why type that 100+ characters again when we can just copy paste, make things easier on ourselves. Wish I could go to the right file all the time, but of course we are going to have to change out the list that we're getting it from. So because I use the same structures over and over and over and over again in my XML, and I don't try to reinvent the wheel 700 times per game, copy pasting code is very simple. Literally copy pasted it and changed out our list with the list name that we're actually looping, and we have it. These should now load. Okay. Gameplay, I think I forgot to mention this needs to load to 1. Once I said that, I was like, oh crap, it's loading the wrong thing. Okay, so our play state loads. We should now go and see our map. From our map, we click our levels. From our levels, we go into the level itself, or world for that matter. I think that we have done it. Let's give it a try. Of course, it always loads on the other side. There it is. Okay, play. Cool. That's not where I want it, but whatever. No big deal. And then we are going to... Oh, I know why. It's off in scale. That's what the problem is. Alright, no big deal. Click in 1. We expect to see 2 spawn points, but not the third one. And that's exactly what we see. Cool. We're going to close that out. We're going to run it again because we don't have a way to go back yet. We are going to hit play. We're going to go to level 2, and we see 1, 2, 3 spawn points. So we are loading the different levels. Alright guys, that's it for today. If you liked the video, make sure that you hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. We're currently doing one of these a week. I would like to get back to 2 a week. I don't think that's going to happen during the holiday season, or until I get the next game, Guild of Delinar, out. I haven't been able to. I'm going to try. I'm always going to try to get 2 levels in, or two tutorials in each week, but it just hasn't happened in a couple weeks. I'm very busy trying to get the next game out. Past that, if you feel so inclined, Patreon support is very much appreciated. We're almost to that $100 donated mark, at which point I will turn over some requested art to my artist. His name again is Kyle Peters. He's going to be doing that art. I will probably start with something like the dude, and we can't do all the mobs at once for that price, but I'll probably start with the dude and maybe an effect or so. I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to be able to get, so I'm going to have to ask, but that is the goals. So if you feel so inclined to donate, every time we reach the $100 mark, I'm going to start kind of start requesting art from the artist, and that art will all be open to you guys. It's all yours to use, copyright free, yada yada yada. Yeah, Patreon's great. Love to have the support. If you feel so inclined, otherwise you can buy my games, play them. I'd love to hear from you guys. I can only do this because I have income from my company, so any extra would be great. But anyway, I will see you guys next time, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.